The first thing I notice when I push open our front door is the suitcases. 3 of them, lined up like soldiers against the living room wall. My backpack slides from my shoulder, hitting the floor with a thud that echoes through the quiet house. "This is perfect," Mom's voice floats from the kitchen, bright with an excitement that sends a chill down my spine. "We can be in Arizona by Thursday." "If we leave tomorrow morning," Dad adds, "we'll miss the traffic." I step closer to the suitcases. The blue one belongs to Brooke. I recognize the silver star keychain she got at summer camp. The red one is Mom's, and the brown leather bag has to be Dad's. My throat tightens. "Where's my purple suitcase?" A shadow falls across the wooden floor. I look up to find Mom standing in the doorway, her smile too wide, too rehearsed. "Nora, sweetie, you're home early." Bus driver took a different route. The words scratch against my dry throat. "What's going on?" She glances toward the kitchen, then back at me. "Why don't we all talk in the dining room? Your father and I have exciting news." My feet turn to lead as I follow her. Through the window, I catch sight of an RV parked in our driveway. It's massive, gleaming white in the afternoon sun, already half-packed with boxes visible through the windows. Dad sits at the head of the table, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he studies some papers. Brooke slips into the chair across from me, her eyes fixed on her hands folded in her lap. At 16, my sister usually can't shut up about her latest drama club triumph or soccer victory. Her silence screams louder than any words could. "Your father and I have been doing a lot of thinking," Mom begins, her fingers drumming against the wooden table. "About our future, about what really matters in life. We've decided to simplify." Dad cuts in, his voice carrying that same tone he uses when explaining why we can't afford new school clothes. "Sell the house, live on the road, experience real freedom." The room tilts sideways. "What about school?" "Well, that's what we need to discuss." Mom reaches for my hand. I pull back before she can touch me. "The thing is, sweetie, this journey, it's not going to work with everyone." The words don't make sense at first. They float in the air like soap bubbles, beautiful and fragile, until they pop against the sharp edge of understanding. "What do you mean?" "But I know. God help me, I already know." Dad clears his throat. "We've arranged for you to stay here in Colorado. The state has excellent programs for young people in transition." "Programs?" The word tastes like metal in my mouth. "You mean foster care?" "It's a life lesson in independence," Mom says quickly. "You've always been so mature for your age, so capable." My eyes burn as I look at Brooke, still studying her hands. "And her?" "Your sister's situation is different," Dad says. "She has real potential we need to nurture. Her grades, her extracurricular colleges, look at those things." The papers in front of him shift, and I catch a glimpse of official letterhead. Child Protective Services. The date stamped at the top is from 3 weeks ago. "You've been planning this." My voice comes out in a whisper. "All this time, you've been planning to leave me behind." "Now, Nora," Mom starts, but I'm already on my feet, chair scraping against the floor. "You're choosing her over me?" The question rips from my throat. "Why? What did I do wrong?" "It's not about wrong," Dad says, his tone clipped. "It's about what makes sense financially. We simply can't support everyone." "I don't cost that much." The words burst out of me. "I'll eat less. I'll stop asking for new books. The decision is made." Dad's voice hardens. "The social worker will be here in 20 minutes. You should pack what you can carry." I stand frozen, staring at these strangers wearing my parents' faces. Mom's eyes glisten with tears that look almost real. Dad shuffles his papers, already moving on to the next item on his agenda. "And Brooke, me sister, my supposed best friend, won't even look at me." "I hate you." The words fall like stones. "I hate all of you." I run upstairs to my room, yanking my purple suitcase from under the bed. My hands shake as I stuff it with clothes, books, anything I can grab. Through the window, I see a gray sedan pull into our driveway, parking beside the RV that will carry my family away without me. 20 minutes later, the social worker has kind eyes and gray hair swept into a bun. She waits by her car as Mom hugs me, her perfume suffocating. Dad pats my shoulder like I'm a stranger's dog. Brooke finally meets my gaze through the RV window, guilt written across her face as Dad starts the engine. I stand in the driveway, my purple suitcase at my feet, watching the RV grow smaller and smaller. The same route I took the bus home on, now carrying my family in the opposite direction. The social worker's hand settles gently on my shoulder. I'm sorry, honey. Let's get you settled. The RV turns the corner, disappearing from sight. In the sudden silence, I hear the distinct sound of my world shattering. It sounds exactly like a 13-year-old girl not crying. Later that night, the county transitional housing facility smells like bleach and broken dreams. I sit on the edge of my narrow bed, one of 12 identical beds lined up in the girls' dormitory like patients waiting for surgery. The mattress creaks under my weight, a sound like surrender. My purple suitcase huddles in the corner, still packed. If I don't unpack it, maybe this won't be real. Lights out in 10 minutes, ladies. Mrs. Harding's voice bounces off cinder block walls. She's been here 20 years, according to the plaque by her office. I wonder if she remembers all our faces, or if we blur together after a while. Lost girls with lost looks, temporary residents in this way station of the unwanted. Days later, the bathroom schedule posted on the wall divides us into morning and evening shifts. I'm lucky number 7 for showers, right after breakfast. The girl in bed 6 told me it's better that way. The hot water usually lasts until bed 8. I've learned to brush my teeth without looking in the mirror. The library cart comes on Wednesdays, squeaking down the hallway like a wounded animal. I take whatever books they'll let, mysteries, romances, ancient encyclopedias with half their pages dog-eared. Words don't judge. Words don't leave. Dinner in 5 minutes. Another announcement, another organized migration. We file into the cafeteria like a well-rehearsed dance troupe. Plastic trays, plastic forks, plastic smiles from the staff. Everything here is synthetic, even the sympathy. I eat mechanically. Bite, chew, swallow. The other girls chat in whispers, comparing stories of how they landed here. I keep my head down. If I don't make eye contact, they won't ask questions I can't answer. My social worker, Miss Peters, visits on Mondays. She has kind eyes and gray roots showing through her dye job. We're working on finding you the right placement, she says every week. I nod, pretending I believe her. Pretending I'm not counting the days like prisoners' scratch marks on walls. 3 weeks pass this way, 21 days of institutional routine. I learn which chairs in the common room don't wobble, which books on the library cart are worth reading twice, which staff members will let you sit in silence, and which ones need to fill every quiet moment with cheerful chatter about better tomorrows. I don't cry, not where anyone can see. Then Miss Peters arrives on a Thursday instead of Monday, her face bright with news that doesn't feel like news at all. I found a wonderful couple who'd like to meet you, Nora. They have experience with fostering teens. 20 minutes later, the meeting room has motivational posters on the walls and a box of tissues on the table. Ken and Margaret James sit across from me, their postures careful, their smiles gentle. He has calloused hands and quiet eyes. She wears a cardigan the color of autumn leaves. We have a small farm outside town, Margaret says, her voice as soft as old quilts. Plenty of space to breathe. Ken nods. And a library in town that's always looking for volunteers. I study their faces for signs of deception, for the cracks that will show the truth beneath their kindness. But they just wait, patient as winter gives way to spring. A month later, after the documents were accepted and everything else arranged, the drive to their home winds through foothills that ripple like waves toward distant mountains. Margaret points out landmarks: the general store where they buy their groceries, the high school I'll attend in fall, the church where she teaches Sunday school, but adds quickly, "Only if you're interested, dear." Their house is white with green shutters, a wraparound porch sagging slightly in the middle. My new room faces east. Empty bookshelves line one wall. A handmade quilt covers the bedreal fabric, real stitches, nothing plastic here. "We'll get you some decorations this weekend," Margaret says. "Make it feel more like home." Home. The word sits in my stomach like unripe fruit. Dinner that night is pot roast and potato rolls. The silence between bites feels heavy as storm clouds. I manage 3 words: thank you and good night. Sleep doesn't come. At 3 in the morning, I find myself on the back porch, counting stars until they blur. The screen door creaks behind me. Ken appears with 2 mugs of hot chocolate, marshmallows melting into perfect white circles. He doesn't ask why I'm awake, doesn't tell me everything will be okay, just sits in the other rocking chair, both of us watching our breath make ghosts in the cold air. Weeks pass. During that time, Margaret teaches me to plant tomatoes, showing me how to bury them deep so they grow strong roots. Sometimes, she says, patting soil around a seedling, things need to be buried before they can grow. The ancient barn cat Margaret calls him Mr. Whisker starts sleeping on my bed. Well, would you look at that, Ken says when he sees the cat curled against my legs. He hasn't liked anyone since Reagan was president. I start doing homework at the kitchen table instead of my room. One evening, stuck on algebra, I hear myself ask Margaret for help before I can stop the words. She pulls up a chair without comment, and we work through equations until they make sense. My 14th birthday arrives like any other day. I don't mention it, but after dinner, Margaret brings out a small chocolate cake with a single candle. Ken disappears into his workshop and returns with a bookshelf raw pine, still smelling of sawdust and effort. Built it myself, he says, rubbing his neck. Thought you might need somewhere proper for all those library books you've been bringing home. A card arrived first that morning. Brooke's handwriting on the envelope makes my hands shake. Inside, a generic birthday message, a $20 bill, and nothing from our parents. No explanation, no apology. The cake tastes like ash in my mouth. Margaret must see something in my face because she's there suddenly, her arms around me, holding me together as I finally shatter. Let it out, sweetheart, she whispers, her cardigan growing damp under my cheek. You're allowed to break here. We'll help you put the pieces back together. I cry until my throat hurts, until my eyes burn, until the sobs turn to hiccups and then to shuddering breaths. Ken's hand rests heavy and warm on my shoulder. Mr. Whiskers purrs against my ankle. Later, after the tears have dried and the cake plates have been cleared away, I sit on my bed looking at the empty bookshelf. Tomorrow, I'll fill it with stories. Tonight, I just trace the careful joints, the smooth edges, the places where rough wood has been sanded to softness. Sometimes love looks like a bookshelf built by hand. Sometimes family is found in the spaces between broken pieces. Sometimes home isn't where you start, but where you finally learn to stop running. I fall asleep with Mr. Whiskers rumbling beside me, dreaming of tomato plants growing deep roots in foreign soil. I will build myself in the following 3 years. 3 years later, the yearbook camera weighs heavy in my hands as I crouch behind the gym bleachers. Through the viewfinder, I watch Jenny Martinez score the winning point at the volleyball championships. The crowd erupts, and I catch the exact moment their teammates lifting her onto their shoulders, pure joy radiating from every face. My finger presses the shutter. Got it, I whisper, checking the digital display. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of joining the yearbook committee. Now the camera lens offers the perfect distance, close enough to capture the story, far enough to keep my walls intact. The gym empties slowly. I pack up my gear, careful with the expensive equipment. A voice catches my attention. Williams, Mr. Peterson waves from the doorway. Don't forget debate practice tomorrow, regional finals next week. I hold up my thumb. The trophy from last month's competition sits in Ken and Margaret's living room, right next to the family photos, the ones where I belong. An hour later, the autumn air bites through my jacket as I walk the 3 blocks to Twice Loved Books. The bell chimes as I push open the heavy wooden door, and Mrs. Henderson looks up from her crossword puzzle. Right on time. She slides a stack of books across the counter. Romance section needs organizing. Someone, she rolls her eyes, decided to shelve Jane Austen under horror. The familiar scent of old paper wraps around me as I sort through the volumes. Each book tells its own story of survival dog-eared pages, broken spines, coffee stains that speak of late-night reading sessions. Like me, they've been passed along, finding new lives in unexpected places. The shop phone rings just as I'm shelving the last Austen novel. Nora? Margaret's voice crackles through the receiver when Mrs. Henderson hands me the phone. Ken and I need to talk with you when you get home. Nothing bad, she adds quickly, just important. My stomach clenches despite her reassurance. Old habits die hard. But Margaret keeps her word. That evening, sitting at their sturdy oak kitchen table, they slide a manila envelope toward me. We've been thinking, Ken begins, his weathered hands wrapped around his coffee mug, about making this official. Margaret reaches for my hand. We'd like to apply for permanent guardianship, if you want that. The words hit like summer rain after drought. I stare at the papers, legal language swimming before my eyes. But I'm already 16, isn't it kind of late for? Family doesn't have an expiration date, Ken says firmly. That moment, the mail slot rattled. Margaret returns from the front hall with a postcard. Grand Canyon spreads across the glossy front, tiny figures posed at the rim. I recognize their silhouettes instantly. Weather's perfect here, I read aloud, voice flat. Hope you're well, Mom and Dad. No questions about my life. No mention of my debate victories or the photography scholarship I'm researching. Just tourism and weather reports, like I'm a distant acquaintance they met once at a dinner party. The postcard crumples in my fist before I realize what I'm doing. I bolt from the kitchen, screen door slamming behind me. The garden Margaret taught me to tend stretches dark and quiet, fresh-turned earth drinking in moonlight. My knees hit dirt. Pieces of the postcard scatter like confetti as I tear it to shreds. Footsteps crunch on gravel. Margaret settles beside me, her gardening apron still tied around her waist. She doesn't speak, just starts gathering the paper fragments. I don't know why I'm still angry, I whisper. It's been 3 years. Anger means you're healing. Margaret's voice carries the wisdom of someone who's walked through fire herself. Means you know you deserved better. The next morning, I sit in the newspaper room, staring at my laptop screen. The cursor blinks at the top of a blank document. You okay? Lucas drops into the chair beside me, his own laptop already open to our shared research folder. You look like you're plotting someone's murder. Writing my column, I gesture at the empty page. About family. He nods, understanding, darkening his eyes. Last week, over ancient library copies of Lord of the Flies, he told me about his father, the drinking, the screaming matches, his mother's quiet strength as she packed their bags at midnight. Want to brainstorm over lunch? He asks. Can't. Tutoring the Morrison kids today. 2 foster siblings recently placed. The girl reminds me of myself 3 years ago, all sharp edges and silence. You're good with them. Lucas bumps my shoulder with his. They trust you. Because I don't lie to them. The words come automatically. No false promises, no everything happens for a reason garbage. His smile reaches his eyes, crinkling the corners. That's why I trust you too. The bell rings and we gather our things. Lucas pauses in the doorway. Hey, Nora, that column you're writing? He shifts his backpack. Make it honest. Some kid out there needs to know they're not alone. That afternoon, my fingers fly across the keyboard. I write about chosen family, about the people who show up when biology fails. About Ken teaching me to drive in his old Ford pickup, patience rolling off him in waves as I ground the gears. About Margaret's fierce pride at parent-teacher conferences, her eyes bright when my English teacher praised my essay on resilience. I write about finding your voice in unexpected places through a camera lens, in debate club rebuttals, in the quiet moments helping younger kids navigate the same storms you survived. The column runs anonymously, but days later the response floods in anyway. Letters pile up in the newspaper room, stories of other chosen families, other survivors. A community built on understanding rather than blood. That evening, I show the letters to Margaret as she prepares dinner. You're blossoming, Nora. She wipes her hands on her apron, pulls me into a hug that smells of herbs and home, like those roses we planted last spring. I lean into her embrace, remembering the thorns that pricked my fingers as we worked the soil. How Margaret taught me to handle them carefully, but without fear. The garden stretches beyond the kitchen window, summer flowers nodding in the twilight. 3 years ago, I stood in a different kitchen, watching an RV disappear around the corner with my first family inside. Now I stand in this kitchen, with my permanent guardianship papers waiting on the counter for Monday's court appointment, and realize some flowers bloom brightest after transplanting. Ken's boots scrape the back steps. Lucas here yet? He calls. Burgers are almost ready. I smile, heading for the door. My second chance at family waits in the backyard, gathered around a picnic table weathered by sun and rain and love. Just like me. 2 weeks later, the acceptance letter trembles in my hands, University of Colorado letterhead crisp against my fingers. I read the words again. We are pleased to offer you admission. My throat tightens as I count the zeros in the scholarship amount. Well? Margaret's voice quavers from across the kitchen table. She clutches her coffee mug, knuckles white with anticipation. I got in. The words come out as a whisper. Full ride. The mug clatters against the saucer. Margaret's chair scrapes back, and suddenly her arms wrap around me, the familiar scent of vanilla extract and garden soil surrounding us both. Oh, sweetheart. Ken appears in the doorway, reading glasses perched on his head. What's all the commotion about? I hold up the letter, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. He crosses the room in 3 long strides, taking the paper with careful hands. His eyes scan the text, and I watch his weathered face crack into a sunrise smile. Business scholarship, he reads aloud. Based on your essay about personal resilience. He looks at me over the rim of his glasses. You wrote about the garden, didn't you? I nod. About how you taught me that broken things can grow back stronger. Margaret's hand finds mine under the table, squeezing tight. They saw what we see in you, Nora, a fighter. 5 minutes later, the screen door bangs open and Lucas bounds in, his dark curls wild from the August wind. He stops short at the sight of us huddled around the table, his eyes finding the letter. Is that? I nod, and his whole face lights up. He doesn't say anything, just pulls me into a hug that lifts me off my feet. When he sets me down, his hands linger on my waist and something electric sparks between us. Margaret clears her throat. This calls for celebration. Ken, grab that bottle of sparkling cider we've been saving. The next few weeks blur past in a whirlwind of shopping lists and dorm requirements. Lucas helps me pack, boxing up the life I've built here piece by piece. We work in comfortable silence until he picks up the photo of Ken and Margaret at my high school graduation. They're really proud of you, he says softly. We all are. I pause, a stack of books in my arms. I keep waiting for it to feel real. He sets down the photo and takes the books, his fingers brushing mine. Which part? College or us? Heat creeps up my neck. We haven't put words to this thing growing between us, but it's there in every shared glance, every accidental touch. Both, maybe. Move-in day arrives too soon. Ken insists on driving the pickup himself, my few possessions rattling in the bed. Lucas follows in his ancient Volkswagen, and Margaret fills the silence with cheerful chatter about proper nutrition and remembering to call. My dorm room is smaller than I imagined, but the window faces east, catching the morning sun. Lucas and Ken make quick work of assembling the bed while Margaret arranges my meager wardrobe. I unpack my books onto the shelf Ken built me years ago, the one that's moved with me from foster home to permanent placement to here. When everything's settled, we stand awkwardly in the cramped space. Margaret fidgets with her purse strap, eyes suspiciously bright. Well, Ken says gruffly, suppose this is it. You'll come for parents' weekend? The question slips out before I can stop it. Margaret's arms wrap around me. Try keeping us away. She pulls back, cupping my face in her hands. This is what parents are supposed to do, sweetheart. Help you fly. Ken hugs me next, smelling of sawdust and pipe tobacco. He presses something into my hand, a small leather-bound journal. For when you need to sort things out, he whispers, your thoughts are worth keeping. They leave together, Margaret dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Lucas lingers in the doorway, hands in his pockets. Want company for dinner? He asks. The dining hall's supposed to be decent. My new roommate won't arrive until tomorrow. The thought of facing that first meal alone makes my stomach clench. Yes, please. The semester unfolds like a flower opening to the sun. My business professors notice my drive, calling on me in class. One recommends me for a part-time job in alumni relations, where I learn the delicate art of networking. The work comes naturally, after all. I've spent years reading people, gauging sincerity, measuring worth against actions rather than words. Weekends find me on the familiar road home to the farm, laundry basket full of stories about classes and campus life. Margaret sends me back with containers of homemade soup and fresh eggs. Ken teaches me to change my oil, his quiet pride evident in every careful instruction. Lucas and I dance around each other, our bond deepening into something more. He understands my need for space, never pushing when I pull back. We study together in comfortable silence, share coffee between classes, exchange glances that say more than words. The box of letters from Brooke lives under my bed, growing dustier with each passing month. I read them sometimes late at night when the weight of absence feels heaviest. Her cursive grows more elegant with each envelope, full of stories about places I've never seen. She's careful never to mention our parents directly, but their presence haunts the margins of every page. They ask about you, she writes in her latest letter. I tell them you're busy living your life. I fold the letter carefully, tucking it back in its envelope. Through my dorm window, I watch students crossing the quad, their laughter floating up like autumn leaves. My reflection catches in the glass, shoulders straight, chin high, eyes clear. Not the same scared 13-year-old who watched an RV disappear around a corner. The girl in the window looks like someone who knows exactly where she's going. Someone who's learned that sometimes the best family is the one you choose. Someone who's finally, truly learning to fly. I touch the small scar above my eyebrow, a reminder of the life before. Then I open my laptop and begin typing my latest alumni newsletter article. The cursor blinks, steady as a heartbeat, as I write about the power of connection, of building bridges between past and future. About how sometimes the hardest roads lead to the strongest destinations. Outside, the Colorado mountains pierce the sky like promises. I think of Ken's garden, where broken things grow back stronger. Of Margaret's kitchen, where love smells like vanilla and sounds like quiet understanding. Of Lucas, who knows when to hold on and when to let go. I am my parents' daughter, but I am also so much more. I am the story I'm writing for myself, one careful word at a time. I focus on studies and graduation 4 years later, and I achieve my goal with my new parents and Lucas as my biggest support. At the present moment, at the office, a year after the graduation, the notification pings while I'm reviewing quarterly reports. A tiny blue dot on LinkedIn that makes my coffee turn to acid in my stomach. We're so proud of you, Nora. Let's catch up soon. My mother's profile picture shows her smiling on a beach, my father's arm around her shoulders. They look older, tanned from their years of freedom. The cursor trembles as I hover over their names. 9 years of silence, broken by 2 sentences and an exclamation point. The bathroom tile feels cool against my forehead as I kneel in the last stall, breath coming in short gasps. The door creaks open. Nora? Lucas's voice, low and steady. Your assistant said you ran in here looking sick. They found me. The words scrape my throat. My parents. His shoes appear under the stall door. I'm right here. Just breathe with me, okay? 10 minutes later, I'm back at my desk, blocking every social media account I can find. But they're like water seeping through cracks. Messages to old professors. LinkedIn connections with my colleagues. Each new contact brings fresh waves of nausea. Did you know your parents are trying to reach you? My boss stops by my office, concern etched on her face. They sent me quite a lengthy email about their prodigal daughter. I grip my pen until my knuckles whiten. They're not my parents. They gave up that right when I was 13. The voicemail comes that evening. Aunt Patricia's voice drips with venom. How dare you ignore your own parents? After everything they sacrificed to raise you? They made one mistake, Nora. You owe them some basic kindness. One mistake. Like forgetting a birthday or missing a school play. Not calculating the cost savings of abandoning your younger child to state care. The letter arrives on expensive legal paper, full of veiled threats about financial obligations as a family member. 1 week later. My lawyer, the one I specifically keep on retainer for moments like this, confirms it's just intimidation. No legal weight. Just more proof they see me as a resource to be drained. Brooke's video call catches me at home. Her face fills my laptop screen, panic in her eyes. They're broke, Nora. Completely broke. The words tumble out. The RV life, the traveling it was all funded by credit cards and loans. They burned through everything. Why should I care? But my voice shakes. Because I found something. When I was helping them organize their papers. She holds up a document, dated 9 years ago. The familiar letterhead of our old family accountant. My eyes lock onto a single line item. Dependable expense removed. NW. Annual savings, $23,467. The room spins. All these years, I thought they couldn't afford to keep me, but they had calculated the exact dollar value of throwing me away. I didn't understand then, Brooke whispers. I was 16, scared of being left behind too. I'm so sorry, Nora. I was just a kid, like you. I don't answer. Can't answer. The truth sits like broken glass in my throat. They come to my office on a Tuesday morning the following week. My mother in a blouse that probably cost a month's rent, my father in his business casual armor. The receptionist's panicked text gives me 30 seconds warning before they appear in my doorway. Sweetheart. Mom steps forward, arms open, tears already falling. The performance hasn't changed in 9 years. We've missed you so much. Security is on their way. My voice sounds distant, like it belongs to someone else. You should leave. After everything we gave you? Dad's face reddens. We sacrificed everything until we couldn't anymore. You have no idea what we went through. The words rise from some deep, quiet place inside me. Ken and Margaret gave me everything when you gave me nothing. We need help, Nora. Mom's voice cracks. Just a small loan, a place to stay until we get back on our feet. We're still your parents. I stand, smooth my skirt, press my palms flat against the cool desk's surface. No, you're not. Parents don't abandon their children when they become inconvenient. Parents don't calculate the savings of throwing away their daughter. You're just people who made a choice 9 years ago. Now you get to live with it. You ungrateful, Dad starts forward, but the security guard appears in the doorway. Miss Williams, need any help here? I meet my father's eyes. Yes, these people were just leaving. They're not welcome in this building again. They let security escort them out. I watch through my office window as they cross the parking lot, shoulders slumped, looking smaller than I remember. The gods who once held the power to destroy my world, reduced to desperate strangers begging for cash. Lucas finds me still standing at the window an hour later. His arms wrap around me from behind, solid and real. You did it, he whispers. You stood your ground. I thought seeing them would break me. I lean back against his chest. But they're just people. Selfish, ordinary people who made a choice. A choice that said more about them than it ever did about you. Outside, the afternoon sun turns the mountains gold. Somewhere out there, Ken and Margaret are probably working in their garden, Margaret's bad knee creaking as she plants her fall bulbs. They'll call on Sunday like always, asking about my week, proud of every small victory. The people who chose me, the family I earned, the love that healed what blood betrayed. I turn away from the window. There's work to finish, a life to live. Their chapter in my story ended 9 years ago in a suburban driveway. This time, I'm the one choosing to walk away. I will be even stronger after a year, I promise myself. A year after, the scent of fresh paint mingles with Margaret's pot roast as I arrange photographs on my new mantle. Ken and Margaret beam from a silver frame, caught mid-laugh at last year's state fair. Lucas grins from another, camera in hand during our weekend at Garden of the Gods. Brooke's recent headshot sits beside them, her travel blog logo visible in the corner. My chosen family, displayed without apology. Perfect spot for this one. Lucas places our group photo from closing day right in the center. We stand on my new front porch, keys dangling from my fingers, Ken's arm around Margaret, Brooke flashing a peace sign, first-time homeowner at 23. The mortgage papers still smell like ink. The doorbell chimes. Margaret bustles in carrying her famous apple cobbler, Ken following with a bottle of sparkling cider. Brooke slips through behind them, a houseplant cradled in her arms. Spider plant, she announces. Impossible to kill, according to the garden center lady. Figured that was appropriate for your first official housewarming. My fingers brush the soft leaves. 3 years ago, I couldn't even look at her without tasting bitterness. Now, her weekly calls fill the gaps between visits, stories of her travels peppered with sisterly advice about investment accounts and window treatments. We gather around my second-hand dining table, plates loaded with Margaret's pot roast and roasted vegetables. Ken raises his glass, but his voice catches. Margaret squeezes his hand. To the daughter of our hearts, he finally manages, who reminds us every day what family really means. Lucas leans close, his whisper warm against my ear. You didn't just survive, you outgrew them. The words settle into my bones, true as sunrise. I did outgrow them, outgrew their limitations, their judgment, their cramped vision of love. My condo might be modest, but every square foot belongs to me, bought with the salary I earned and the savings I guarded. The next morning dawns crisp and clear. I adjust my blazer in the coffee shop window, checking my reflection. Right on time, they walk in, Deborah and Alan Williams, my biological parents, 10 years older and a lifetime away from the people who drove off in that RV. Nora. Mom reaches for a hug. I step back, gesturing to the empty chairs. Let's sit. They arrange themselves carefully, sharing glances like actors before a scene. Dad clears his throat. We've done a lot of thinking, he begins, about our choices, our struggles back then. The RV life wasn't what we expected, Mom cuts in. We should have planned better, should have. Should have what? The words emerge calm, measured. Should have kept both daughters? Should have honored your basic obligations as parents? We were drowning in debt, Dad protests. We couldn't see another way. And now? I sip my coffee. Why reach out after all this time? They exchange another look. Mom's fingers twist her napkin. We're not getting any younger, she says softly. We thought, maybe, you have that spare room in your new place. The coffee burns bitter on my tongue. Of course, they tracked my life through social media, watched me build success from the ashes they left, calculated the square footage of my condo. I see. I set my cup down. You chose freedom over family once. I'm choosing peace over pain. The answer is no. But we're your parents, Mom whispers. Ken and Margaret are my parents. They showed up, they stayed, they taught me what real love looks like. I stand, dropping cash on the table. I won't help you financially. I won't house you. I'll accept holiday cards and occasional calls, nothing more. Those are my boundaries. That evening, I read my therapy letter aloud to Lucas and the Jameses, my voice steady. Dear Deborah and Alan, you taught me that family is disposable. Ken and Margaret taught me that true love stays. You showed me I was a financial burden. I showed myself I could build prosperity alone. You left me with a single suitcase. I built a home with doors I can close. Your abandonment was my liberation. I release you from any obligation to me, and myself from any obligation to you. Lucas wraps his arms around me when I finish. Ken and Margaret's eyes shine with tears and fierce pride. The letter feels light in my hands, a weight lifting that I've carried since 13. Tomorrow I'll mail it, but I don't need their response. My answer lies in this room, in these arms, in this choice to protect the peace I've built. Thanksgiving arrives in a swirl of autumn leaves. Lucas and I drive out to the farm, passing pumpkin patches and hay bales. Margaret stands at the stove, teaching me her traditional stuffing recipe. Butter melts into bread cubes as she measures sage from her garden. The secret, she confides, is using the herbs fresh, makes all the difference. Ken appears in his old flannel shirt, cheeks red from checking the fence line. Walk with me, Nora, while the stuffing bakes? We crunch through fallen leaves, past the barn where I used to hide with books, toward the apple trees heavy with late fruit. Family is who shows up, Nora, he says quietly, who stays when it's hard, who helps you grow instead of cutting you down to fit their needs. My phone buzzes, my parents' number flashing on the screen. I silence it, slipping the phone back into my pocket. The autumn wind carries wood smoke and Margaret's cooking and the sweet decay of leaves. Ahead, the farmhouse windows glow golden against the dusk. Lucas waves from the porch, sleeves rolled up, ready to help with dinner. I loop my arm through Ken's as we walk home. The sun sets behind us, painting the sky in shades of belonging.